Lando Norris might lose everything. Because the FIA just exposed something they were never supposed to find. A hidden component. An illegal advantage. And a move that could hand Oscar Piastri the upper hand before the first race even starts. This changes McLaren's entire strategy. And if what's in the leaked FIA documents is true, Norris may have already broken a rule that could cost him the world title. But here's the craziest part. McLaren knew. And they tried to cover it up. We got our hands on the evidence. And once you see what they were testing in Barcelona, you'll understand why the season might be over before it even begins. Because this is not about speed. It's about trust. It's about sabotage. And it's about the one decision that could destroy Norris. Or make Piastri champion. Before we break it down, make sure you're subscribed. Because what we're about to reveal will not be shown anywhere else. It started as just another private test. 5 cold days in Barcelona. No fans. No media. No live timing. But behind the closed garages, something happened. Something no one outside McLaren was supposed to know. And yet, less than 24 hours later, the FIA opened an investigation. Why? Because one of McLaren's cars was not what it claimed to be. At first, everything looked normal. Oscar Piastri had some trouble on Thursday. They said it was a fuel system glitch. A small issue. Nothing major. But the moment they pulled that car back into the garage, something changed. Technicians stopped talking. Cameras were blocked. Norris didn't return to the track. And then, quietly, the FIA asked for a full breakdown of Norris's Wednesday run. That's unusual. Very unusual. Especially because Norris had just set the second best time of the entire week. Just behind Lewis Hamilton. And 0.3 faster than Piastri. But here's where the red flags begin. The FIA didn't ask for the lap time data. They asked for power deployment curves. For cooling system logs. And for a specific telemetry file that usually stays internal. They were looking for something. And they found it. A component, mounted on Norris's MCL40, was never registered as part of the base configuration. It wasn't illegal, but it wasn't declared. And under the 2026 technical directive, that makes the entire dataset invalid. So what does that mean? It means McLaren can't use any of Norris's data to prepare for Bahrain. It's erased, wiped from official reports. And just like that, the team is forced to lean on one car only. Oscar Piastri's. Here's what makes this even worse. McLaren knew about the component. Internal sources say it was a last-minute addition. A revised cooling duct. Small, barely visible, but designed to alter airflow around the rear suspension. Not for reliability. For performance. And it worked. Norris was lightning fast through sectors 1 and 3. More stable under braking. Stronger in traction zones. But that piece, that single, undeclared modification, just got them flagged. Now here's where things turn. McLaren has a rule. One internal rule that everyone in the team knows. You only test new parts on a championship car with full declaration. No surprises. No shortcuts. No hidden tricks. But this time, they broke that rule. And the car they did it with was Norris's, not Piastri's. That's why the engineers are split. That's why Bahrain prep is already turning into a civil war. Because now the team has 2 problems. 1. The data they wanted to use most, from their lead driver, is gone. And 2. The only complete dataset they can legally rely on belongs to the second driver, Oscar Piastri. And he knows it. Insiders say his side of the garage has already requested expanded simulator time, extra allocation of aero analysis, custom setup development based on his feedback, not Norris's. And for the first time, there's real talk inside the team about giving Piastri the technical lead. Not publicly. Not yet. But behind closed doors, he's the one with the clean data. The one who played by the rules. The one the FIA didn't question. And if McLaren wants to avoid another scandal, they may have no choice but to back him. Even if it means sidelining the defending world champion. No fine. No grid penalty. No public statement. But make no mistake. The FIA just fired a warning shot. Because when they invalidate a session, when they quietly scrub an entire dataset from official records, they're sending a message. Not just to McLaren. To everyone. Do not test the limits of the gray area. Not this year. Not with these rules. You see, in previous seasons, small infractions like this were often ignored. Teams got away with clever interpretations. Underbody tweaks. Cooling hacks. Tiny aero tricks that slipped through unnoticed. But not anymore. Because with the 2026 regulations, everything has changed. These cars are harder to drive. More reliant on battery deployment. more dependent on active aerodynamics. And that means any small advantage matters. And that's what scares the FIA. They know that if McLaren is doing this, others are too. And here's where it starts getting political. The moment that Norris's test data was thrown out, Ferrari requested access to the full report. Red Bull followed. And Mercedes? They issued a formal query about whether deployment curves from any invalidated test can still be used in simulator prep. That's not casual. That's not curiosity. That's pressure. Because everyone knows what McLaren was trying to do. And now they want to know what else might be hiding in plain sight. And for Norris, this is personal. Because no one's saying it out loud. But the whispers are already there. Did he know the part was undeclared? Did he push to run it anyway? And if he did, was he trying to create a performance gap over Piastri before Bahrain? Because here's the thing. Last season, Norris won the title by 2 points. And now, barely 60 days later, his own team is questioning the foundation of that lead. And so is the paddock. Lando Norris is not just McLaren's star driver. He's the reigning world champion. The man who beat Verstappen. The man who held off Hamilton. The man who brought McLaren back to the top. But in the Friday evening debrief, he looked different. Not frustrated. Not angry. Just quiet. Multiple sources say he was short in the meeting. Spoke less than expected. Let engineers do the talking. And then he said one sentence. Just one. I drove what I was given. On the surface, it sounds harmless. Professional. But inside McLaren, it hit like a grenade. Because that's not ownership. That's distance. That's a driver putting the blame elsewhere. And for a team built on unity, that's dangerous. Because Oscar Piastri? He did the opposite. He praised the car. He praised the recovery. He said, quote, "Even with limited time, we learned a lot. And I trust what we're building." That's leadership. That's what engineers want to hear. That's what management wants to support. And it's starting to show. Internally, simulator priority has shifted. Piastri is now receiving setup data first. And in Bahrain, he'll get the initial long-run program. That's not normal. That's usually reserved for the lead car. And now the paddock knows it. Because when McLaren released the post-test press summary, they listed Piastri before Norris. That has only happened twice in the past 2 years. And both times, it followed internal controversy. Coincidence? Possibly. But for insiders, it's a signal. Piastri's role is growing. And Norris? He's under review. Not publicly. Not officially. But within McLaren, there's a question forming. One no one ever thought they'd have to ask. If they had to choose between the two, if it came down to consistency over charisma, which driver do they trust more heading into the new era? That question hasn't been answered yet. But Bahrain is coming. And so is the moment of truth. The moment the FIA invalidated Norris's data, Ferrari changed their testing plan. Immediately. Sources confirm they've adjusted their long-run simulation parameters. Not based on their own data, but on Piastri's. Why? Because if McLaren is now building their race setup around Piastri, that makes him the reference. Not the champion. Not Norris. And Red Bull? They took it even further. Verstappen's race engineer reportedly requested all McLaren GPS overlays from Barcelona. Not just top speed. Deployment patterns. Lift and coast segments. Gear shift timing. And guess what? They found inconsistencies. The way Norris exited turn 3. The torque spike was higher than what the power unit should allow in default mode. Which means only one thing. McLaren was testing a non-standard deployment curve. And now that curve is illegal to reference. Because it was built using an undeclared part. Which means Red Bull just gained something better than data. They gained leverage. Because if McLaren tries to bring that configuration to Bahrain, all Red Bull has to do is file a protest. And McLaren knows it. This is how the paddock plays the long game. Through politics, pressure, timing. And right now, Piastri is clean. Norris is exposed. And the rivals are circling. Meanwhile, at Mercedes, a different strategy is unfolding. They've quietly offered McLaren use of shared telemetry from Alpine. Same engine. Different interpretation. It's a subtle move. But the intention is clear. They want to pull Piastri closer. To isolate Norris. And to destabilize McLaren from the inside. Because they know something crucial. When a team is forced to choose between data integrity and driver loyalty, it always breaks somewhere. And when it breaks, someone always takes advantage. After Barcelona, the McLaren factory went quiet. Too quiet. Normally, after a test, there's buzz. Data briefings. Driver meetings. Setup proposals. But this time, it was different. The team split into two analysis groups. One led by Norris's race engineer. One led by Piastri's. That's not unusual, unless they're working from different baselines. And they were. Because Norris's data, after being invalidated, could no longer be used for primary setup simulations. So his side? They're now building off older models. Secondary mappings. Historic overlays from 2025. Meanwhile, Piastri's group? They're working with fresh data. From Friday. The only legal data McLaren owns from Barcelona. And inside the team, the engineers know it. One car has direction. The other has noise. One path is clear. The other? Guesswork. And the consequences are already showing. A key software engineer has reportedly moved to Piastri's side of the garage. Unofficially. Quietly. But confirmed. Another data analyst, previously neutral, has requested to attend Piastri's Bahrain sessions. Not Norris's. And when decisions like that start happening, it's not just about who's faster. It's about who the team believes in more. And that belief? It's shifting. Now here's the part no one's talking about. Piastri hasn't said a word. No comments about the controversy. No tweets. No subtle digs. Nothing. And that silence? Is power. Because while Norris tries to explain his lap times, Piastri just smiles, nods, and gets more laps in the simulator. He's playing the long game. And everyone inside McLaren knows it. He doesn't have to say he's ready. He's showing it. And in the world of Formula One, confidence without noise? That's lethal. Especially when your teammate is looking over his shoulder, wondering what went wrong, and who's still in his corner. Bahrain is only days away. But inside McLaren, the pressure is already boiling. Behind closed doors, the technical leadership team has drafted two different plans. One, led by Norris's side, assumes the test data was just a bump. That Bahrain will reset the narrative. That the title defense starts now. The other? Built entirely around Piastri's run. His feedback. His pace. That second plan? It's winning. Because Bahrain isn't just any circuit. It's hot. It's punishing. It's where cooling failures and energy mismanagement destroy entire weekends. And right now, the only full lap energy deployment file McLaren has, that passed FIA scrutiny, came from Oscar Piastri. Which means, unless something changes, he'll be the technical benchmark. The number one. And for Lando Norris? That's the nightmare scenario. Because this isn't just about testing anymore. It's about pecking order. It's about perception. And perception? It spreads. When the engineers believe in someone, the updates come faster. When the data points to one driver, the setups lean in their favor. And when the paddock sees a team shifting, they adjust too. Sponsors, media, even other teams start to react. Because everyone's watching to see how McLaren handles this. Do they double down on Norris, the reigning champion? Or do they pivot to Piastri, the rising force with clean data and momentum on his side? They can't support both equally. Not in a season this volatile. Not with the regulation reset this big. And here's the twist. If Bahrain delivers even a small gap in Piastri's favor, if he outqualifies Norris, or outscores him in race trim, even by a fraction, the debate ends. The garage shifts permanently. And Norris? He'll be fighting for control of his own team. Just one race into the season. It's not official. It's not declared. But inside McLaren, the internal war has already begun. And Bahrain might just be the battlefield where it ends.